All right, everybody, this is S. Anthony Thomas. This is the S. Anthony Thomas Show. And on this episode, somebody who has the most unique skill set I've ever met in all the years I've been doing comedy, Mr. Neil Berliner, psychiatrist and comedy writer. And not just a psychiatrist and comedy writer, a psychiatrist and a high-level comedy writer. I've never run across that skill set before, and I was interested in talking to this gentleman. And as it turns out, it was a great time. I think you're going to love it. In fact, I'm sure you're going to love it. So, are you ready? You are? Cool. Let's do it. Okay, everybody, I told you I was going to be having people on the show that I like, and I'm going to continue that streak right now. Ladies and gentlemen, a very talented man, Mr. Neil Berliner.
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad at all. You know, this is an interesting thing. I wanted to have you on the program for a while. I started to do this because I wanted to talk to people that I found ridiculously interesting, and you fall well within that category, good sir.
Wow. What did I do to merit that?
You have one of the most unique...
You better have an answer.
You have one of the most unique skill sets that I've ever run across in the world of comedy. You're a psychiatrist and joke writer.
Correct.
I've literally run across, I've been in comedy, since 86. I literally have never run across that configuration ever. I've run across.
Yeah, well, most psychiatrists are too busy, helping humanity. And, at 1:00 in the afternoon, I'm done with psychiatry and I'm into the comedy.
That is one of the things that was always, because like you just said, psychiatrists very, very busy. And even though the job is not as important, comics very, very busy. Both of them, and I know psychiatrists, obviously, and obviously I know about 6 to 7 quadrillion comedians, but each one of those professions tends to be a calling, and it wraps itself around the human being and won't let them go. You've got both of them pulling on you at the same time. And the simple fact that
comedians are healers, if you think about it, actually. Mm-hmm. Philosophers, healers, getting people to laugh. Laughter is the best medicine, all that stuff. I really think it's true. I've seen depressed people. If you tell depressed people a joke, if they're not really what we call melancholic, like super, super depressed, a joke will take them out of that depression for a few minutes. They'll laugh at it and it'll give them a little break. So I think there's some, intertwining of the two things. Although people ask me, do you get material from psychiatry? And I always say, well, I don't see many schizophrenics coming up with pilots for sitcoms recently. So,
well,
I don't really get material from psychiatry, but, comedians help people out a lot, take them out of their misery.
It's an interesting thing because I'm just wondering about that because I know that as I've been doing this for a while, and I kind of, like I said, it's a calling and it's the thing that grabbed me and just yanked me and snatched me in like an undertow. I had no choice but to do this, but there's still, it seems to me, there's a S. Anthony that's the regular guy, and then there's the podcaster comedian guy. And obviously they're both still me, but they tend to be, it's almost like that's two different people, and it's a weird thing. And I'm wondering, when you have your psychiatrist hat on and then your comedy hat, I'm assuming that you separate those two, like bad kids in the back of a car, those two, those two mindsets.
Yeah, you're right. There are patients who would have no idea, even coworkers. Mm-hmm. Who have no idea and are shocked when they hear that I'm involved with comedy at all. So I have a way of separating it out. You have to know how to separate it out when you're dealing with certain people.
Well, the thing, it's different with you too, because see, what happens is you're not just a psychiatrist in the comedy. You've actually done it at a high level. So it's not like you're, I heard Neil did an open mic night once, or Neil worked at the Wacky Shack once. Yeah. I mean, you wrote roast, you work with the Stern Show. I mean, you've done big things. So it's not like, it's not like finding out that, you were at the Chuckle Hut once and thought it was, and had fun once, and every once in a while your wife let you do it. This is, you're a real deal when it comes to the comedy.
Yeah, I've been lucky though. People ask me, how did I do this? How did I do that? You have to have a base level of ability, obviously, in this field to get anywhere. But you also have to get breaks. And one break leads to another. And the Howard Stern Show was my first break. And it just opened doors for me. And I was able to go through those doors. And it's worked out fairly well. I'm appreciative for that. But, everybody needs people. Everybody needs people to believe in them and to give them that opportunity. Again, you have to have some baseline talent level, but I'm just very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have done some of the things I've done in comedy. Yeah. Thanks for that.
When you decided to, you deserve it. When you decided to become a doctor, I mean, when you were a kid, I, as a kid, was writing jokes. Okay. And sketches and things of that nature. When you were young, when you were little Neil, lowercase Neil, what was lowercase Neil like?
Well, I ask people from my past, and now with Facebook, obviously, and all the social media, you get in touch with all the people from your past, many of the people from your past, and I literally asked them, was I funny as a kid? And they all say that I was, and I don't really remember specifically that per se, but I do have, and I'm looking at it right now, actually, it's on my bulletin board, a note from Rodney Dangerfield that says that, thanks for the jokes you sent me, but I write most of my own material, good luck in the field. And I was 13 when I had brought those to to Dangerfield's Comedy Club. So by 13, I had realized that I had some ability to write jokes. So I had the nerve to go to Rodney Dangerfield's club and give him some jokes that I typed out on index cards, by the way. So I always sort of had it. It had some kind of trend, tendency toward doing comedy, to answer your question.
Yeah, to walk up to an all-time great with jokes, that is definitely something. That's confidence. You didn't just walk up to somebody.
Yeah, I had some guts. Yeah, with that. That's true. Now that you remind me, when I was very young, you ask about Little Neil. Mm-hmm. I'm short, so I'm still Little Neil, by the way.
Me too.
When I was 5 or 6, actually, I wrote to the toy companies. I had ideas for games and toys. Mm-hmm. So I get this form letter back saying, thanks so much, but we don't accept outside ideas for our games. But, keep buying Remco and Ideal toys, Mm-hmm. So, I guess I've always had some kind of creative bent.
My mother said that to me, and I remember my grandmother saying something like that, very similar to me. She said, both of them, and it was really weird. They both said, what you're doing between 8 and 10, or somewhere in that range, what you do between that age is what you're supposed to be doing. And you were approaching an all-time great comedian with jokes and things of that nature. And it just goes to show you that this is pretty much, you were supposed to be doing this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm thinking, as you say that, one of my sons is a computer engineer, and he was into machinery and computers and taking apart vacuum cleaners and stuff when he was 5 or 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's genetic too, to some extent, knowing what you want to do at a young age.
Yeah, and that's the thing that always fascinated me, because now that when you think about it, you knew that you were doing the comedy, you knew you wanted to do this. How in the blue hell did you wind up a healer, but not the kind of healer you are now on the other side of your life?
Yeah.
How did you decide? Well,
I was programmed, Jewish kids in New York, if you have half a brain, your parents are demanding that you become an MD. So before you do what you really want to do, you must get an MD. And then after that, you can do what you want. So, you're sort of programmed to go to medical school when you're born. Mm. But
how many doctors do you have in the family?
Well, actually, only my father-in-law is a doctor. Mm-hmm. And actually, my grandfather was a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually the first MD in my family. Would you? Would he allow you to get away with saying that, or would it be more? You know the show 2.5 Men. Oh, sure.
Would he let you get away with that, or would he hit you with an Allen? I'm a doctor too, man, just because I'm a chiropractor.
Yeah, I don't want to go there because anybody who gets a doctor, I'll give him some respect.
Yeah, exactly.
Chiropractors help a lot of people.
Yeah,
they help people who, and especially now, with all the opiate crisis, doctors don't want to give out pain pills to anybody. So there are a lot of people in physical pain who need help, and chiropractors definitely are of value to some people. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just, you were right about.
But I see your point.
You were right about backing off of that too, because I actually saw, saw this argument in front of me with two guys that I knew, and they were one was an MD, one was just like a chiropractor, and they were kind of circling each other like cats in an alley.
Yeah, that's a very common scenario.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a story, a very brief story.
Mm-hmm.
My first job as a doctor was to do insurance physicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told by the boss of the company that I'm supposed to go to this guy, this chiropractor, to examine him, but do not tell him you're an MD. He won't let an MD touch him. So say you're an EMT or whatever. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to see this guy at all, because if he doesn't want to be, I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't want to be seen by an MD, then I won't see him. So there is some animosity between certain chiropractors and certain MDs, no doubt about it.
I had at that time, I think it was in my 20s. I'm 50 now, but I had no idea. But I went, oh, geez, what the hell is I was like, okay, guys, thanks for coming to see me, but and also thanks for not continuing this knife fight in the alley. I'm thinking of these two highly professional guys who literally sound, I feel that at this particular time. And how about you? Well, I also feel. And then all of a sudden when they found out what the other did, yeah, dirty mother, jumping mother.
Well, I was once, one thing about chiropractors that I've found, they always throw the title doctor around.
Mm-hmm.
So, some chiropractors, I'm not generalizing, but a few chiropractors I know, they're always throwing the word doctor around. And I was once at a party, and it was like a buffet, and I was going to take a seat, and this woman came up to me and said, oh, no, this is Dr. Jones's seat. Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones is sitting here. I said, is Dr. Jones a chiropractor? She said, yeah, he's a chiropractor. How did you know that? I said, I just had a feeling. She had mentioned Dr. Jones about 3 times in about 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's one of like, could you pass the salt to me, the doctor, please?
Meanwhile, so far, this is a comedy interview, and you've been doing all the jokes. I really got to give you a lot of credit. You're like thinking on your feet over there. Boy, gee.
Hey,
I've been anxious all week about this interview, by the way, and I'll tell you what. I wasn't sure what to call you. Do I call you S. Anthony? Do I call you Anthony? Do I call you S? I mean, I even mentioned it to my therapist. Like, what am I supposed to call this guy? I wasn't going to make a phone call to you and say, how do you go by? I thought that would be kind of stupid. So my therapist said, you need a lot more help than I thought.
Need you to send you to a chiropractor.
Exactly.
Well, everybody calls me S. Anthony.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
That's what everybody calls me. And, it's really an interesting, to be honest with you, the origin story to that very, very quickly was, my name is Steve Thomas. I couldn't find stevethomas.com, but I could find santhonythomas.com, and thus the stage name changed.
So the internet has actually changed your name. I see.
And also, before cable, and before high speed, I used to literally just walk around going, which was really annoying to people. All right. Okay. Now I've got to find this out because, when I lived in Philly, I was 17 years old. Stern came to Philly in 1986, and I listened to that show literally 4 hours a day, every day from 1986 until he left the Sirius satellite. So I know how huge this man was and still is. And you've already shown the Stones to send jokes to Rodney Dangerfield, an all-time great. Now you got probably the best radio person in the history of the world, and you approach them too. How the hell did you do that?
Well, what happened was I've been writing for various people, and a friend of mine suggested to me that I see this act in the Village in New York, this old white woman doing rap. And he said she's hilarious, and she like does a little striptease, and for an old lady, she's got like kind of a decent figure, and she's dancing around and doing rap. I said, all right, I'll check her out, whatever. So I went down to see her, and her act was, it was funny, and it was unique, but the lyrics she used weren't really like modernized. So they weren't up to date, in my opinion. So I approached her, and I said, look, I basically said to her, I could add sex, drugs, and rock and roll to your repertoire of lyrics. Mm-hmm. And she was okay with that. So I wrote her a bunch of lyrics, and I set up a website for her because she wasn't attuned to doing that. And I set up, back then we had an 800 number for her. Mm-hmm. And 6 months into that, we got a call from the Howard Stern Show, from KC, if you know KC from the Howard Stern Show.
KC Armstrong, yeah.
And he said he wanted Rappin' Granny on the, her name was Fruity Nutcake Rappin' Granny.
Oh, I know what that is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Casey said we want her on the show, and Snoop Dogg was on the same day. So it was like a 1-2 punch with him, like, evaluating her and everything, and she's dancing around and rapping. And it turned out that she wound up doing about 15 appearances on the Stern Show. Mm-hmm. So I was hanging around the Stern Show a lot, and I wrote many of her lyrics, and Artie Lang became aware of what I was doing, and he asked me to write some stuff for him. So, one thing led to another, and then I started doing roasts and teaching comedy in New York at the Pit, the People's Improv Theater, and at the World Series of Comedy. So, as I said, one thing built upon another, and I started writing for various comedians, and here I am.
How did you
And also, Artie told me one time, Artie said, you got to get on stage once in a while. You have to feel what it feels like. Mm-hmm. You have to experience what it feels like to get the laughs or the lack of laughs. So, you're writing all this stuff, but you really need to get out there. And that's when I started doing open mics. And actually, one night I decided, I was working at a hospital in Manhattan, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do not an open mic. I want to be on a real show. So I'm going to take my resume, my comedy resume. I can't believe I did this looking back at this now. But I took all my comedy credits, and I went over to the New York Comedy Club, and a comedian named Buddy Flip was nice enough to let me actually go on the scheduled show, do like a guest spot. And then right after that, the same night, I went to Gotham Comedy Club, and a comedian named Brian McGinnis was doing a show there, and he let me on for a few minutes. So my first night doing non-open mics was in New York City on the same night.
How did that feel?
So, I was scared, man. I was not good. I wasn't funny. I wasn't really good. What I was doing was I was trying to recreate I had written some very good roast lines for some Comedy Central roast and for the Howard Stern Show. So I tried to recreate those atmospheres and say, like, well, at the Shatner roast, I did this line, or I wrote this line or that line. So people are looking at me like, well, this isn't the Shatner roast. What the hell are you doing up there? So I bombed, basically. I basically bombed the first time and realized you can't recreate an event that already happened, like a roast. It just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So from that point on, I started writing material for myself, and it started working out a little bit better. So I perform, maybe once a month, get up there. I have certain home shows that I do, certain shows that I can just get up whenever I want. Yeah. And actually, one thing I did that was kind of interesting, I thought, was a show I called it Fly on the Wall. Mm-hmm. And Fly on the Wall is a show where you have you would enjoy doing this, as a matter of fact, and next time I do it, I'll have you be one of the comedians. Mm-hmm. We have 4 comedians on stage at the same time, and we all write jokes, and we do the jokes, and if they don't do well, if they bomb, or if they don't do fantastically, then the other comedians punch up the joke right on stage. So we fix up the jokes on stage, and the audience gets to hear the process, the writers fixing jokes up, punching up jokes.
That'd be that would be interesting to get, especially for them, because they don't.
Especially, it's basically like they're the flies on the wall.
Yeah, because they people don't, because it's just like this is what I'm talking. You wrote jokes, obviously, then you get on the stage. Now, did you notice a difference in the way you construct the joke after experiencing what you experienced with the audience? Did you feel a difference?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mean the same joke after it's punched up?
No, I mean, like I'll give you a little bit of something that happened to me that changed me very quickly. I went to Los Angeles. I took some stage classes, and they gave me stage direction and how to put scripts together like that. And I noticed that when I started to write material after that, new material that was not existing material, obviously, but new material, I noticed that the way I looked at the material was a little bit different than the way I constructed it, the way I thought about it, the way I visualized it was a little bit different because I now could understand what the director was saying. And you wrote jokes before going on stage, but now, you know, writing it down on the paper and that silence, you know, between the bits when you're standing there is a little bit different. It changes everything. It's just it's like another dimension to how to write a joke opens up because you didn't experience that. And I wondered if you picked up on that.
Well, now I understand the question. And the big change for me, the big difference for me, the revelation was that at first I would go up on stage and do one-liners. Mm-hmm. Like I do political jokes, topical jokes, things like that. And I would get a half-decent reaction to them. But then I realized that to be a good comedian, the audience has to know about you as a person. You have to have a persona. Mm-hmm. And I was just spitting out jokes, jokes were flying out of my mouth that were decent, but they were unrelated, and the audience knew nothing about me. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like a late-night monologue from a nobody, mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I learned that I have to let the audience know who I am, something about me, and do some material, related to my own life, and then maybe be able to use just some one-liners, some topical stuff like monologue kind of material, which is probably what I'm best at, doing monologue material.
It's funny.
So that was a big change for me.
It's funny how everything, even if it's something that's not perceived, you don't perceive right up front, everything that happens to you seeps into your comic DNA. Yeah. Yes. Everything that happens to you seeps into your comic DNA. Being a father, that seeps into your comic DNA. Being married, that seeps in. Being a psychiatrist, that seeps in. Growing up in New York, that seeps into it. And
yes, absolutely.
And also, of course, obviously that experience on stage, which can be exhilarating and exciting. And it could also be the kind of thing that would make you give up military secrets.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that makes you feel as alone as bombing up there,
Well, that's never happened to me, but I'm sure that what people tell me about it, no, I'm just kidding. I still specifically remember bombolas from the 80s. I still remember them. I remember every last one of them. I remember them like they're burned into my memory.
Yep. Well, the best of the best have experienced it. Mm-hmm. You have to experience it to know the difference. You can't appreciate something good unless you've had bad experiences.
This is true. Now, I want to ask you this. Now, obviously, both of the things that you do. Well, I shouldn't say both. There's many things you're doing because you're doing you're getting on stage yourself. You're writing monologue jokes, roast jokes. You're teaching writing.
Yes.
And that, my friend, I did a comedy class on how to write stand-up material, but mine was just a one-time thing. I didn't have I wrote a course, like a lecture, but you're doing a class. So
Yeah, well, at the end of my class, I punch up jokes that the students bring in because most of the students are comedians, or I would say 50% are comedians already, and most of them are young. So a lot of them, though, it's amazing that they don't really know how to construct a joke, and they can't even tell you what is funny about the joke they've written. So yeah, it's a process that I help people with. I try to make it scientific, very, very mathematical, very organized. Mm-hmm. Like I'll go through all the categories of one-liners and, try to get them to think in terms of what categories you write in. And where are you weak? Where are you strong? Do you only watch CNN? Do you never turn on Fox News? To try to broaden people is one of the aims of the course. Because people sometimes get locked into writing the same kind of stuff over and over and over. I mean, with Trump as president, I'm even guilty of that to an extent. You know, I have to back off and say, write a joke about a Democrat once in a while. You know, they do funny stuff too.
Yeah, I mean,
they all
can get
it. People to fake, during my course.
We'll be back right after this short message. And now, back to the show.
So these are you said they're comedians, but I mean, when you say that, you mean if they're coming in, I'm assuming these are like really fresh. I mean, still, I mean, do they stay? I mean, when you look at the jokes, you punch up the jokes. Are you at a table? Do they actually stand on the stage behind a microphone? And do you look at them that way?
We're in a room at a studio, like a rehearsal studio, and it's a class format. So I have a 110 or so PowerPoint slide presentation, and then at the end, like I'll tell them in advance to bring jokes in. So at the end of the class, people will hand me pieces of paper with jokes on them. Although now what I've been doing, you see, part of the process is that I might rip apart a joke. And some people got offended early on when I started doing the course. So now I have people just send me jokes in advance. I don't say who wrote the joke because I want to be able to, objectively criticize it if I need to, but not be mean about it. But I don't want anybody getting offended, going to a course and paying money for it and then getting offended because I insulted their joke.
Just make sure you don't slip up, okay? And that's what's wrong with this awful joke, Bill, and then point to the guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a graduation show or anything like that at the end of the
No, I don't do that whole thing. I don't get into that. I don't really you're going to have a graduation and we're going to video it. We'll send you the video for $25 and bring 3 people and make it into a bringer show and all that. All I do is teach the course and let them go out there and do what they will with it, And believe me, I can't name names, but I've had some people whose names who are, and you know them now. You didn't know them 5 or 6 years ago when they took my course, but I'm very proud of some of my students who have really, really, gone pretty far.
That is it. That must be pretty cool when you see them. They walk out on Letterman or something like that. Or
well, I was going to say next week one of my students is going to be on Colbert for the 3rd time.
The 3rd? Oh, well, so now you got a regular.
Yeah. A regular? I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I say once. They see you may do one good set. That's when I think you can really call yourself a regular, because if you do one good set, you may have 5 or 7 good TV minutes in you. And then and I've seen people, and I'm also not going to mention names, who walked on and just destroyed the place. And you're going, oh, this is great, man. It's when they go back, when he or she goes back, and it's going to be incredible. And they go back and, ooh,
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. Also, I tell people in the class that you never know where this is going to take you. Like if you become a lawyer, if you go to law school, you're going to become a lawyer. You may not know exactly what kind, but you can sort of navigate or orchestrate your career. But in a thing like comedy, you go with the flow. I mean, I never knew. Like, as a matter of fact, one of my students was writing for Mad Magazine and recommended me to Mad. And before you know it, I'm writing for Mad Magazine. So because one of my students, recommended me, I was able to do something that I never dreamed I would do, to write for a magazine that I loved as a kid, So I tell the students that you really can't orchestrate this kind of a career. You have to go where it takes you. You never know who's going to be the angel who gives you a break or something. Be happy with what you're doing.
That has got to be one of the coolest things that you get to look at when you look at your resume. Because everybody read Mad Magazine.
Everyone loves Mad Magazine when they were a kid.
I had stacks.
And I emphasize that when they were a kid, because they don't particularly read it now necessarily. Although I met Kevin Nealon one night from Saturday Night Live and everything else he does. And he said to me, I love Mad. I have the current issue in my hotel room. And he said it was on the cover and everything. He was totally with it. He was totally with that magazine. So some people do keep up with it.
Now we've seen you have like the only thing, like, you get the psychiatrist, teacher, writer. Only thing missing is a Dos Equis commercial for you, buddy.
Well, I went to med school in Mexico, and I had my experience with Dos Equis. Do you know there used to be a Tres Equis beer? This is not a joke. There used to be a 3X, beer as well.
Oh, good Lord.
Doesn't exist anymore, but yeah.
Why is that? The deaths? What the hell? What the heck happened to the alcohol content? What happened to that beer?
I think it might have been a dark beer, if I remember correctly. I think it might have been a dark beer, but for whatever reason, it's not in circulation anymore. And now people look at me funny when I ask what they have. Sometimes I'll ask the bartender, "Do you have Trace Eppies?" So I'll get a dirty look or something, but I'll say, "No, it really existed. It really did exist."
So what do you think? I mean, you made an interesting move. Well, actually, technically, you haven't moved because you're still practicing. What exactly do you think? I mean, what do you actually? You can snap your fingers right now, and you can pick the next move, the next big thing that happens to you. Now it's your choice.
Oh, I know what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I've co-written a pilot for a sitcom, and I'm the head writer for it, and we're getting some traction with it. So that absolutely is the thing I'm zeroing in on right now.
Man, that would be.
So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We have a very unique idea that it just absolutely hasn't been done.
That is,
and hopefully that'll be the next thing we can talk about next year on your show. I'd love for that to be true.
And I would like that for you as well, because I know that is a big thing. I mean, even just putting it together to the point where someone would look at it is a big thing, because I know an old manager of mine and some old, like an old team I had together, and the way they reject things quickly, if there's interest in it, it's real interest, because these people want to keep their jobs.
Sure.
So if they show interest in it, it's actual interest. They really do like it.
Yeah.
Because
we've been lucky that everyone we presented this to, in the business or out of the business, said, "Wow, this is okay, I get it." Takes 5 minutes 3 or 4 minutes to get it, maybe, but when they hear it, they all love it. So we'll see.
Was that the
first? I
first?
can tell you more about it right now. Believe me, I'd love to. But
no, it's gonna be. I was going to say
lawyers. You know how lawyers are.
I also know that it's not just going to be two people hearing this. So you don't want to put that out there. Like that, right?
Exactly. That was the second thing. I wanted to be nice to my comrades. I didn't want to demean them in any way.
Yeah, because there'll be some guy in Australia, listening to this episode.
You know what? I was watching that show, The Good Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You know that show, The Good Doctor?
I've seen the commercials. Yes.
I'm sorry?
I've seen the commercial for it. Yes.
Oh yeah. So at the beginning of the show, it says there's a graphic that says this show is based on some show that was done in Korea.
What?
So they had to give credit to a show. I couldn't believe it that the show was originally, or at least the concept was originally a Korean show, and they did it here, and they absolutely had to give them credit for it. Which they well should.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because when you see some of the shows that started overseas and came here, and it's like, I didn't know that Sanford and Son came from someplace else. I didn't know that.
Really? I didn't know that either.
I think it was called. And I know that the Three's Company was a British show first. And not only did they bring the show over, they brought the scripts over too. And
wow.
and I got a hold of. I was watching some of the because that was one of my favorite shows as a kid. Three's Company. I was a big fan of John Ritter falling over things, and and also because
I'm older than you, so for me that was Dick Van Dyke.
I got news for you. I saw Dick Van Dyke, and I got a big kick out of Dick Van Dyke falling over that
ottoman.
Falling over the ottoman, yeah. and I'm sitting there, and because I was just a kid for Three's Company, but as it became moved into the 80s, and I started approaching an age where my voice started to drop a little bit. As it turns out, I still love John Ritter, but I seem to have more affection for the other two people on the show, Janet and Chrissy.
Was Suzanne Summers on that show?
I believe Suzanne Summers and Joyce DeWitt were on that show. Yes. And so, as it turns out,
see, I have a gap, S. Anthony. I have a gap in my popular culture, because when I went to med school, it really upset everything. I mean, it took a lot of attention, you know what I mean? It really bothered me, it annoyed me, because I couldn't do the stuff I really wanted to do, or pay attention to the important things in life. So I had like a 8-year, med school and residency where I don't know a lot of the shows, the current events from that time. So really annoying when I look back now.
What years were those?
Okay, it was about 1978 to 84 or something like that.
Oh, good Lord! Do you know who Norman Lear is?
Very late 70s to mid 80s, where I was. It really takes up a lot of your time. This doctor stuff, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Especially at the beginning.
As soon as you told me that time period, I now know all the shows you missed.
Well, at least I didn't miss Herman's Head. Do you remember that show, Herman's Head?
Yes, I do. Fox.
I knew you would remember that. I knew it. You're a good interviewer, by the way. You're a really good interviewer. I feel like I've known you for years, even though this is our first conversation.
And you know what the funny thing? You said you were nervous about this, and the first thing I'm going to say is I appreciate the compliment, because this interviewing people is new to me. And
really,
yeah,
you're natural for this. You really are.
Thank you. And for the record, I'm going to let you know right now. I'm going to edit that part out and just put that on the big loop for next episode.
I do accept PayPal, so I just want to let you know.
But it's one of those weird things, because I loved watching those Fox shows. Married with Children, Herman's Head, Duet, Tracy Ullman show, especially Tracy Ullman show.
Tracy Ullman, oh my God, what a genius!
I was. What a genius. She's scared. She was Tracy Ullman, Lily Tomlin, people like that. When you watch them, you sit there going. I call them notepad people, I call them that because when you're writing what you think is funny, right? And then you'll turn on Tracy Ullman, or you watch Lily Tomlin or somebody like that, and all of a sudden you just go, okay, I got to go back to the notepad.
Well, interesting that you mentioned those two, because they're both impressionists.
Yes, complete skill set, ladies.
Yeah, exactly.
And because even the ones that when you see on Saturday Night Live, some of the ladies on Saturday Night Live are ridiculously flexible. I think Kate McKinnon can do amazing things, and Kristen Wiig can do amazing things. And as soon as I see them, I already know I'm going to like this. It's like,
right. If they're in the skit, you know that they either wrote it or were chosen for a particular good reason, and you know it's going to be good. Absolutely.
Now, when you write for other people, you have to know, like, there's got to be times when you see someone and you go, okay, that person's pretty good. Okay. But then there's a person that could, like a Sid Caesar type talent, where you go, I can do whatever I want with this person. I was like, I can open the floodgates. I don't have to my hands aren't tied. This person is not going to just stand behind a microphone and throw out jokes, or this person is not going to be able to deliver this. And, I was wondering about that, because you wrote for, like, Artie Lang's super good comic, and some of the guys on the Stern Show are pretty good at doing these things. But I mean, I was wondering about that. I mean, do you have people that you're going, I want to write for this person. I would love to write for this person. If I get a chance to write for this person, I want to write for this person. Do you have a dream person that you want to write for, other than me?
I've never really thought of it in those terms. I've thought of it in terms of where's my opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like, when I started out with the roasts, I would get the roster of the people on the dais, and I would look for a non-comedian, or I'd look for a comedian who never did a roast before, and try to write for that person. So, I memean, look, obviously I have comedians I admire a lot, but I think they're so good that what do they need me for?
Well, I'm just thinking about when your pilot moves to the next level.
Yes.
And they start casting
people in mind for my pilot. Absolutely.
So that means
some of them you've never heard of. I mean, I'm basically New York based. I move between Florida and New York every week. I spend 3 days in New York every week and 4 days in Florida. So I get to see comedians on the South Florida scene and the New York scene. And we have specific people in mind, a few people who we absolutely want for, the show if we get it made. And some of them are not even that famous. They're rising stars, but they're not really household names yet.
But the thing is, it's also great to literally find someone who has the talent and use the person and I don't mean use them in a negative way, but give them an opportunity to move up to the next level. It's a great thing to be a part of that. Because just imagine your show comes on, you find, your cast of 5 or 6 and they're all super talented, not ready for prime time level talents. You write your thing. You already know you have the skills, and then you apply that to these people with these weapons, these comedic weapons. And then all of a sudden you have a show that stays on 9 years, and you have a Seinfeld type show. And the next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. I just, I hope that happens for you. I just like,
I appreciate it.
I
look at it as happening for me and, a group of people who deserve it too,
See, that's a good thing to hear. That's a good thing to hear. Cause a lot of times, when you're the person, cause this is your show, you're creating this. Once you put it out into the world, it's not about you anymore. You know what I mean? All of a sudden it's about the cast, the crew, the stuff.
And then, change to a significant extent after it's bought. Who knows? But I think with this concept, the major concept will remain intact because it's so unique. But, how it is. Characters get changed around, ethnicity get changed around, the characters' ages, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I can't even believe we're this far with it. 2 guys from Florida. My friend is the creator of the concept for the show, and I'm the head writer. And we're basically, look, I understand I have some common credits, but we've gotten pretty far. We have very, very important people looking at this thing, and just to get to this point is kind of mind-numbing in a way.
What I've seen, and I'm going to speak just. I'm going to assume this is going to work out for you, but I'm just speaking in another vein. Is that what I've seen? Because I've gone to I had a couple of people that I knew that had pilots that didn't go, but they weren't the pilots that they created. It was someone else's pilot, and they were in it and attached to it at that and that kind of thing. But what happens is once the people see you and see a specific skill set and see you have the ability to create at a high level and see that you have moved it this far, that's huge also.
Right. They appreciate the point that it got to them already, or it ultimately got to them. So something must have gone right before.
Yeah, because
to have gotten to them. Yeah.
Because remember a lot of football teams, even though you're from New York, so you're a fan of the Jets or something, right?
Well, I'd like to be an NFL fan, but I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah, Jets. I can't say anything. I'm from Philadelphia, so it's like, football, whatever. It's like you're a fan of your team, and then that other stuff is good too. That's one of the things I've noticed from people from the Northeast Corridor, Philly, Boston, New York. We love our teams. We love the sport too, but it's like team first, big gap, then the sport. It's just that's just the way we are,
I'm also a Met fan, so I spend all of football season waiting for baseball season. Then I spend all of baseball season waiting for football season.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works, and the thing that always hold on for a minute. Let me have a sip of water. I keep forgetting I'm talking to a Mets fan. Hold on. Oh God. Hold on. Oh God, I'm gonna edit this guy out. So anyway, but I just get a kick out of that whole. It's really weird how the two cities, my hometown and your hometown, are these. They were 100 miles away, and when it comes to sports, people hate each other. And as soon as the game's over, it's like, you stinking fan, and the Jets, they stink. The Mets, they suck. Your whole family stinks. Your mother, your father. Hey, that's the end of the game. Hey, we want to get a beer, man, and
right.
Watch the UFC fights.
Boston. You can throw Boston in there too, for sure.
Oh God,
definitely, like you said, the whole Northeast Corridor, absolutely.
Oh God, my Boston friends, good Lord, man. I mean, nothing against them, but it's just too many damn Super Bowls. I'm getting sick of the phone calls. And
I know.
I didn't even rub it in last year. I was like, look, we finally got one. Screw it.
Exactly.
I couldn't say anything.
Well, I have this talent I haven't told you about. I had never been to Wrigley Field, okay? And I have a friend in Chicago, so I visited him 2 years ago. Go to Wrigley Field. Who wins the World Series? The Cubs. Mm-hmm. And one of my sons is up in Boston now, and I had never been to Fenway. So this year we hit Fenway, and look who won.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't work for the Mets, though. If I go to Citi Field, they will not win the World Series. But, if you are listening and you have a city, a major league team, and you'd like the team to win the World Series, you might want to pay all my expenses to go to that ballpark.
Yeah,
might help you out.
You might have just talked yourself into a couple of Citizens Bank park tickets. No, wait a minute. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys.
2 boys. Okay, now wait a minute.
Great. They're doing terrifically. I'm so happy for them. I mean,
okay, hold on. We'll find out
I'm a computer engineer and a PhD in chemical engineering student.
Now that's
I'm very, very.
That's impressive. But let's talk about what's important. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Where do they live?
What's that?
Do they live in New York?
Well, no. One's in Boston.
One's in Boston.
And one is in Florida, working for an augmented reality company, a startup, a very big startup.
Oh, was that what I saw you on the
yes
with the VR glasses?
That's right.
Okay.
Not VR. It's actually AR.
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality.
Oh, augmented reality. Okay,
augmented
reality. The
like
next.
We're sitting in now.
That's 5 levels up.
Things get added to it.
Now,
So,
what was that like when you actually had the goggles on? Because I've seen VR before.
Yeah, that's augmented. That was an augmented reality.
No, I mean, I've seen VR, but I mean, I'm going to ask you what is AR like? Because I've experienced VR.
AR. Well, right. So with AR, with virtual reality, you're in a completely different environment, like a game environment or something like that. With AR, augmented reality, you're in the environment you're in, but things get added to it. Like I played the other day for the first time. So,
similar to what the iPhone does. When the iPhone adds a dinosaur to your living room.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's called augmented reality because it augments your own environment.
Exactly.
So the other day I was playing Angry Birds, but they were in my living room. Okay, attacking me, coming at me and stuff. It's amazing, and there's so many applications for it. Like in medicine, they're gonna have virtual cadavers. That are gonna be. So the med students will be like in a classroom. They'll have a table, and instead of having a real cadaver to dissect, there'll be an augmented reality cadaver, and it'll be right there. It won't really be there, but it'll appear as if it's on the table. And they're 3D, so you can look at these things from any angle. It's just incredible. The technology that we are experiencing now is just going to explode. These AR and VR technologies.
I just want to warn you, in about 5 seconds, I'm going to creatively insult your baseball team. 3D cadavers? You mean like the Mets? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, God.
Oh!
Good one.
That was horrible.
Well, I wrote a joke about the Mets that got into, I don't know, won some kind of contest in the newspaper or something. It was the Mets, it was right after July 4th, because the Mets have fireworks, at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So the joke was something like, the management of the Mets have decided to have fireworks, every night for the rest of the season. And they expect the attendance to be great. I'm screwing up the joke, but they expect the attendance to be great, and they're also going to have fireworks when the Mets are out of town, and they expect even higher attendance for that. That was the essence of the joke.
That makes sense, actually.
And now you see why I'm a comedy writer and not a stand-up comedian. It's an old joke, though. I can't be expected to. I'm getting old. I can't be expected to remember stuff from like 10 years ago, stuff I wrote back then. Get it perfectly in an interview with S. Anthony Thomas, right?
I got news for you. I hit the big 5-0 also, and I almost faced the wrong way with the microphone. I was, what the hell is this thing? Now this is something I got to ask you, because I'm not a married guy, but I've lived with a couple of ladies in my life, and I know what
at different times, right?
At given times. Yeah, I would love to have done it at the same time.
Times, not at the same time.
Come on, knock on my door. Oh no, yeah. But the thing was, it's really interesting that, because you've been married since 91.
Correct.
Right. And so
you did good research.
and the thing about it is I know that when I've seen the spouses of people that do, and I'm going to stick with the comedy, the writing and things, because those hours are weird, because you have set hours when you do when you're treating patients. for the most part.
Yeah.
When that happens, because all of a sudden there's nothing, right? And then you gotta write, jokes for 15 people. Then there's nothing, and then you're working on the pilot. It's really interesting how one is a father and a husband and finds a way to do all of this. And at some point, I'm going to be that, and I want to know how the hell you did it. Because you got 2 successful sons, you got the wife that's successful, you're successful, and I want you to right now explain how the hell that happens, because I want my audience to have good lives.
Well, I think that the fact that my wife is very successful, she has her own career, so it enables me to do what I need to do, and she does. She works very long hours, and she's very dedicated, and so. What I have to do doesn't get in the way of anything. In other words, it doesn't impede her life. She has her own life, basically, is what I'm trying to. We all have our own lives. We do our own things. And then we intersect that with having fun with each other, So I think if my wife didn't have a career of her own, it would be very... I probably wouldn't be married to her if she didn't have her own stuff going on. So I'm really proud of her. She lectures all over the world. She's in Spain right now. She just got to Spain today. She's going to be lecturing in Spain and England over the next couple of weeks. So she has her own deal going on for sure. She's got a nice high-level deal going on for herself. She's very bright. And she's actually, don't go by pictures of me. My wife is gorgeous. So I really lucked out. I'm married up. If you're not married yet, marry up is the message. And I'm sure you'll be able to find somebody fantastic, because you're a great guy too. So,
well, thank you, good sir.
But you will be able to marry up. Comedy attracts people. There are groupies for even the dorkiest comics, right?
Yes, surprisingly enough, you it's really weird. One of the reasons that I don't put the pictures of my there's no pictures of my ex-girlfriends on Instagram. It's not because I think anybody would say anything about them. It's because I know what people will be saying about me. How the hell did that happen?
Well, you know what?
We can see you as...
I get that all the time. So, people say to me, she's out of your league, she's out of your league. Well, fine. Why would I want to marry anybody in my league? There's no way I would want to do that. The whole goal is to marry out of your league.
You're damn right, because I lived in LA for the 90s, and obviously what a lot of the people in LA look like.
Sure.
So the culture shock was not just the weather and the time difference. The culture shock for me was going to a Burger King and Halle Berry is behind each one of the, it's like, and so they're going, what the hell is this? It's completely shocking. So
it's wild.
And so what happened was I had, even if you're intimidated by someone who's like a 47 on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't like to objectify people like that, but I'm just saying that to make a point.
Right.
When you get to that point where that's all you see, all of a sudden being intimidated goes away. It's the same thing with what you're doing right now. You've worked on Comedy Central. You've worked with these people. So, and also at 13, you went to Rodney Dangerfield. So it's not like, like you can't step up your game, but it's really weird how the comic wife, the wife of the comic or the spouse of the comic tends to be a really, really cool, smart, fun to be with people. And a lot of
have to be. Mm-hmm. They have to be very accommodating because, comics they leave Thursday night or so from home and go to a city and they're away for a weekend, or the wife, the spouse comes with the comedian to the venue. It's not an easy situation, So they have to be very understanding and accommodating. And again, they have to have their own stuff going on. Yeah. They have to have their own lives, or else there's a big disparity, between the two people.
I think of Jay Leno and his wife. She's doing her thing, he's doing his thing, and I look at it as a model, because I've known so many people who have been comics who've been married for a long period of time. The best thing I've ever seen was a guy who was a comedy magician. His wife loved his act so much, I thought it was fake.
I mean, to have to see the same tricks over and over and be entertained by them and genuinely, continually liking them is not easy to do. And then you have the comedy. Then you have the comedy couples.
Ugh.
Like I don't know if you know Tom Cotter,
yes,
his wife Carrie Louise Cotter,
yes,
and Rich Voss and Bonnie McFarlane.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a unique situation because they're very often entertaining in the same venues. So that's an interesting dynamic too. To both be in the field. I'm sure that's not easy on some levels.
You got that right, my friend. I've been there. So Neil.
Yeah.
So, okay, now did you have a great time, good sir? Because I did.
Oh, I must have had a good time because I can't believe it's over. This is it? You just dumping me after, wow, it's been an hour. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I just said whatever happened.
It reinforces what I said about you, about being a good interviewer. Because the time went so quickly. Really.
Well, thank you, good sir. Yeah, I try to, it's like I have the other podcast where I rant and rave like a maniac. And then I have this one where I act like me.
And those are different, right?
Absolutely different, yeah.
I see.
And the thing that shocked me the most was I did not think that audience would come to this show. I did not think that was going to happen, but they about 65% of them rushed right over to this. So, hi guys. So
yeah, they should stick with you. Really, I mean it.
Yeah, and
no, I'm just saying that I can't. I'm overwhelmed that you're such. I mean, you're really, really. This is a calling for you. I really think this is great because you understand comedy. You understand psychology of people. You get to the heart of the matter. You don't ask mundane questions that a lot of interviewers ask. So I tip my hat to you, man. Really.
I thank you for that. And now I'm going to have to edit out all these, what did you have for breakfast questions now that you said that. No.
Well, I had turkey.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, surprisingly enough, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to be finishing off the turkey myself. Now, good sir, do you have anything you want to tell the people? Anything you want to promote, plug, and let them know about?
Well, let's see. They can go to my website, neilberlinercomedy.com. If anybody wants me to do some writing for them, they could check out my website. And I have a form on there which asks specific questions about what you need, and maybe I'll work with some of your listeners. That might be nice. And
also, just remember the name, so when the sitcom comes out, you're going to see it in the credits, and I command you to watch this program and to write wonderful things about it online, because I said so, because he deserves it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it, man. I wanted to talk to you for a while, but I didn't have the place to do it, and I'm glad I had the place to do it. Thank you very, very, very much. Yeah,
when you get out there again actually doing the performing, I'll see you out there.
Oh, I'll be out there probably the first half of next year.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, my friend.
All right, take care.
All right, everybody, that was the episode. Told you were going to have a great time. Was that fun or was that fun? Of course. I always have fun with the guests, and I have fun talking to you. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for spreading the word, and I will see you again next time. Take care.